There's something quietly brilliant about the way Three's Company can turn a completely ordinary moment into a room full of silent discomfort. And that's exactly what happens in the episode I want to talk about today. It's one of those situations where nobody says the wrong thing directly. Nobody openly accuses anyone of anything. And yet the air in the apartment slowly becomes so thick with awkwardness that you can practically see it floating between the couch and the kitchen doorway. And that, honestly, is one of the reasons this show became such a giant hit in late 1970s and early 1980s America. It understood that comedy isn't always loud. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, and the silence is what makes you laugh. The setup here is simple, and that's what makes it perfect. Jack has just started seeing someone new. She's smart, charming, and maybe a little more serious than the women he usually dates. Approves, is instantly curious, everything seems normal. But then, during a casual conversation, this new girlfriend makes an offhand remark about wanting something more stable in her life. She doesn't say marriage, she doesn't say commitment, she doesn't say move in. She just uses that word, stable. Jack laughs it off too quickly. That's the first crack. Notices the laugh, notices the laugh. The girlfriend notices the laugh. Nobody calls it out directly, but the mood shifts just slightly. And that's the genius of it. Three's Company doesn't always need someone to burst through the door shouting. Sometimes it lets the discomfort breathe. Jack, being Jack, immediately assumes that stable means she expects him to change. Maybe she thinks he's irresponsible. Maybe she thinks he's immature. Maybe she's hinting that living with two women is exactly the image of a future husband. None of this is said out loud. It's all happening in his head, but John plays it physically. His posture tightens. His smile freezes half a second too long. His hand, which was casually resting on the back of the couch, slowly slides down like it just lost confidence. Ever the observant one asks if everything's okay. Jack says yes. But he says it with that slightly higher pitch that immediately tells you it's not okay. Tilts her head and gives him that wide-eyed look, the one that says she knows something is off but can't quite articulate what it is. And just like that, discomfort begins to spread silently. The girlfriend tries to continue the conversation normally, talking about work and future plans. But now Jack is overanalyzing every word. When she says she wants predictability, he hears criticism. When she says she admires responsibility, he hears judgment. He starts correcting himself mid-sentence. He tries to sound mature. Then he worries he sounds stiff, so he tries to loosen up. Then he worries that looks childish. The beautiful thing here is how nobody openly addresses the tension. That's what makes it funny. If someone just said, "Hey, why are you acting weird?" the whole thing would collapse. But Three's Company thrives on the refusal to clarify. Steps into mediator mode, trying to smooth the edges. She compliments Jack's cooking skills, subtly reminding everyone that he's capable. Jumps in with enthusiastic agreement, listing random things Jack has done responsibly, some of which are only half true. The girlfriend smiles politely, but now she senses something too. She wasn't criticizing him, but now she wonders if she accidentally did. This is how discomfort spreads. It doesn't explode, it echoes. Jack decides to prove, without being asked, that he is stable. And that decision is what drives the rest of the episode. He suddenly volunteers to handle all the bills that week. He announces he's thinking about long-term investments. He casually mentions career goals he's never expressed before. Looks confused, looks impressed. The girlfriend looks slightly overwhelmed. The timing of these moments is everything. Jack will deliver one of these overly serious statements and then pause, waiting for approval. The silence stretches just long enough for the audience to laugh, because we can see what he's doing. He's performing adulthood. Three's Company became so popular in its era because it captured this kind of anxiety perfectly. In the late 70s, young adults were negotiating changing social norms. Living arrangements were evolving. Dating expectations were shifting. The idea of a single man living with two single women was still controversial enough to require constant explanation within the show's universe. Stability meant something specific. It meant respectability. And Jack's entire life situation feels slightly at odds with that image. So when that word enters the room, it's loaded. Mr. Of course, appears at the worst possible time. He knocks and breezes in dramatically, as always, scarf perfectly arranged. He makes a joking comment about how lively the apartment always is. But because Jack is hypersensitive now, he interprets the comment as a subtle dig at his lifestyle. Jack responds too defensively, raises an eyebrow, quickly changes the subject, laughs at the wrong moment. Now the discomfort isn't just between Jack and his girlfriend. It's everywhere. Who thrives on suspicion and half-understood situations, senses something deliciously awkward. He lingers. He asks questions that are technically innocent but feel loaded. How serious is this new relationship? Are there plans for change? Jack insists everything is fine, which only makes it sound less fine. Physical comedy carries much of this sequence. Jack tries to escort to the door while still smiling at his girlfriend. He positions himself between them like a human barrier. He gestures too widely, nearly knocking over a lamp. He laughs too loudly at something that isn't funny. John had this incredible ability to let panic ripple through his body. His shoulders would inch upward. His eyes would dart. His hands would hover awkwardly in midair as if unsure where to land. That physical uncertainty makes the emotional uncertainty visible. Contrasts beautifully with this energy. She stays grounded. She watches. She understands that the tension is mostly in Jack's head, but she also knows confronting it directly might make it worse. So she tries subtle reassurance. On the other hand, amplifies the atmosphere without meaning to. Her innocent questions accidentally highlight the very issue Jack wants to avoid. At one point, asks the girlfriend whether she sees herself settling down soon. The room goes quiet. It's not a dramatic silence. It's that soft, uncomfortable quiet where everyone suddenly becomes aware of the question hanging in the air. The girlfriend answers honestly. She says she believes in commitment but isn't rushing anything. Jack nods too quickly. He agrees too emphatically. He says he's definitely not rushing either. But he says it in a way that sounds like he's arguing with an invisible accusation. That's what makes this episode so funny. Nobody accuses him of being unstable. Nobody pressures him. But he feels it. And because he feels it, everyone else starts feeling something too. Eventually, the girlfriend gently asks why he seems tense. It's not confrontational, it's curious. That's the turning point. Jack tries to deny it. He laughs again. He insists he's relaxed. But his voice cracks slightly. The audience laughs not because the situation is outrageous, but because it's relatable. We've all been there. Someone makes a neutral comment and suddenly we spiral. We, we perform a version of ourselves that feels safer, and in doing so, we create the very awkwardness we feared. The resolution is surprisingly soft. The girlfriend clarifies that when she said stable, she meant emotionally grounded, not financially impressive or domestically traditional. She actually appreciates that Jack is playful. She just wants honesty. That lands quietly. Jack exhales. You can see the relief wash over him. His shoulders drop. His smile becomes genuine for the first time in the episode. The tension evaporates not because someone made a big speech, but because someone finally said what they meant clearly. And that's why this comedy still works today. It isn't about outdated fashion or references. It's about human behavior. Discomfort spreads silently when we project fears onto neutral situations. It grows when we avoid clarification. It multiplies when reactions replace reasoning. The Three's Company mastered that rhythm. It let scenes breathe. It trusted silence. It used body language as punctuation. The pauses, the glances, the tiny hesitations are where the laughs live. Jack Tripper drives most of this because he's so emotionally reactive. He wants to be liked. He wants to be admired. He wants to avoid criticism. And those desires make him overthink simple comments, balances him with realism, adds emotional volume, adds outside pressure. Together, they create this delicate ecosystem where one stray word can shift the entire mood. Looking back, it's easy to see why audiences loved this show during its original run. It took everyday social fears and turned them into physical comedy. It let viewers laugh at the awkwardness of adulthood, and it did it without heavy moralizing. The characters learn small lessons, but they don't transform into different people. They reset, ready for the next misunderstanding. If you rewatch this episode now, pay attention to how little is actually said. Notice how much happens in facial expressions. Watch how Jack's discomfort begins as a tiny twitch and gradually infects the entire apartment. That's the real joke, not the word stable, not the landlord's entrance. The joke is how quickly we assume the worst. And honestly, that's why this show still feels fresh, because discomfort spreading silently is timeless. So if you haven't revisited Three's Company in a while, this is a great example of its subtle brilliance. It's not just about wild misunderstandings. It's about the quiet ones, the ones we create in our own heads. And if you've ever overanalyzed a harmless comment and made yourself nervous for no reason, you'll probably recognize a little bit of yourself in Jack here. That's the charm of it. It's exaggerated, yes, but it's also familiar. Let me know if you remember an episode where a simple word changed the whole mood of a room. I'd love to hear which moments stood out to you. And if you're new to the show, maybe give this one a try. Just watch how the silence does most of the work.